The final car, December 16th, 2025. Inside the glass walls of Volkswagen's facility in Dresden, the assembly line moved for the very last time. A single vehicle, a red, electric ID.3 GTX, rolled toward the exit. The workers did not cheer. Instead, they stepped forward to sign their names directly onto the car. Managers took photographs of the moment. And with that final unit, Germany crossed a line that was unthinkable for generations. For the first time in 88 years, Volkswagen closed a factory on German soil. This company was the symbol of the post-war economic miracle, the bedrock of German industrial might. And yet, it shut the doors. Not because of a war, not because of a flood or a fire. It closed because, in the words of its own executives, it was economically necessary. The facade of necessity. Let me be crystal clear about what happened that day. This is not a story about a single factory in Dresden. This is not about optimizing production. It is not about digital transformation. Those are the soft words, the euphemisms that corporate leaders use to numb us to the violence of their decisions. What we are witnessing is the systematic dismantling of the European industrial base. We are watching the hollowing out of the communities that built the wealth we took for granted. The Dresden plant was called the transparent factory. Its glass walls were supposed to symbolize a confident future. Today, they serve a different purpose. They allow us to see the disease that has spread through the body of Europe. Behind that glass, we see the results of 40 years of neoliberalism. The financialization of everything, the submission of the worker to the shareholder, and the erasure of industry in favor of something they vaguely call knowledge-based services. The brutal arithmetic. Let us look at the numbers, because numbers do not lie, even when the people presenting them do. Volkswagen has announced plans to eliminate 35,000 jobs in Germany by the year 2030. That is 1 out of every 4 positions. They aim to slash production capacity by over 700,000 vehicles a year. They plan to extract 1.5 billion euros in savings. But these are not just lines on a balance sheet. These are 35,000 families sacrificed on the altar of stock prices. These are 700,000 cars that will no longer be made by German workers, earning German wages, with German protections. The executive disconnect, Thomas Schaefer, the CEO of the brand, called this closure a challenging decision. He insisted it was absolutely necessary. But we must ask, necessary for whom? It is necessary for the quarterly earnings report. It is necessary for the executive bonus pool. It is necessary for the financial engineers who treat a manufacturing giant like a piggy bank. But it was certainly not necessary for the 230 workers in Dresden. They now face forced retirement, severance packages, or relocation to other plants that might be the next to close. The myth of external blame. The official story, of course, blames the outside world. They tell us sales are down in China. They tell us demand in Europe is weak. They tell us the returning Trump administration in America has crushed exports with tariffs. All of these things are true, but they are used to hide a deeper truth. These pressures exist because we built a global system designed to do exactly this. A system designed to suppress wages, to transfer risk to the bottom, and wealth to the top. Look at the China story. For 20 years, European automakers sent their technology to China. They built factories there. They trained workers there. They chased cheap labor. And now? Now they are shocked that Chinese manufacturers can build electric cars better and cheaper. This isn't bad luck. It is the predictable result of treating workers as a liability instead of an asset. The false promise of the knowledge economy. The irony is devastating. Volkswagen is closing a plant that made electric vehicles, the very technology that is supposed to save the automotive industry. And what will replace it? They say the site will become a research center. They will study semiconductors, AI, robotics. In other words, they will fire the people who make things and replace them with a handful of researchers. This is the central fraud of modern economic policy. We are told that manufacturing is the past. We are told that the future belongs to innovation and intellectual property. But an economy cannot survive on ghosts. You cannot eat intellectual property. Someone, somewhere, must actually build the car. Someone must cast the metal. Someone must assemble the robot. By abandoning production, Europe is not modernizing. It is surrendering control of the material world. It is condemning its workforce to a life of anxiety, wondering which economically necessary decision will come for them next. The union and the managed decline. In late 2024, the IG Metall union struck a deal. They prevented immediate mass firings. But the price was steep. They accepted a roadmap to cut those 35,000 jobs over 5 years. This is the politics of the lesser evil. It is managed decline. Stefan Eli, a union representative, pointed out the betrayal. He noted that while the factory closure was agreed upon, the promise to find new roles for the workers has not materialized. Of course it hasn't. Those promises are empty. A spokesperson told journalists that no one will be left without employment, but admitted they still need to determine future roles. This is the language of bureaucratic violence. What future role exists for a master craftsman in an economy that no longer builds anything? The strategic starvation, defenders of the closure, will say Dresden was a small plant, only 6,000 cars a year. But its smallness was a choice. The company deliberately starved it of investment. They limited what it could produce. They treated it as a showroom, a PR stunt that could be discarded the moment the math changed. And now we zoom out. Audi is cutting. Bosch is cutting. Unemployment in Germany has hit 3 million. This is not a cycle. It is a structural collapse. The failure of the service model. The experts tell us not to worry. They say Germany will thrive as a center of finance and high-value services. But they cannot answer the simple questions. How does a nation generate wealth when it no longer creates value? How does a laid-off factory worker find dignity in a gig economy? How does a country remain sovereign when it depends on rivals for everything it needs? They cannot answer, because the model does not work. This de-industrialization is a choice. It is the result of trade agreements that favor capital over labor. It is the result of tax laws that reward speculation over building factories. Capital eating itself. Volkswagen's CEO, Oliver Blume, speaks of structural problems in Germany. He is right, but not in the way he thinks. The problem isn't that German workers are too expensive. The problem is an economic system where a company can still be profitable, yet feel compelled to fire 25% of its staff just to boost margins. Volkswagen has set aside 900 million euros for this restructuring. Think about that. 900 million. That money could have retooled factories. It could have trained workers. Instead, it is being spent to take the company apart. It is the serpent eating its own tail. Capital consuming its own foundation to survive one more quarter. The threat to democracy. We must understand the geopolitical stakes. As Europe tears down its factories, China builds them. As European workers lose their purpose, Chinese workers gain the technology Europe once monopolized. This is the colonization of the future. Research without production is a dead end. If the factories are elsewhere, the innovation will eventually move there too. But the darkest consequence is here at home. For 87 years, Volkswagen represented stability. By closing this plant, they have crossed a Rubicon. They have normalized the unthinkable. If the symbol of German power can be dismantled, no job is safe. And this is dangerous. Societies cannot remain democratic when the people live in chronic fear. Social cohesion breaks down when the rewards go up and the pain is pushed down. Conclusion. The monument, the final car, that red ID3, will stay at the site as a monument. But a monument to what? To German engineering? No. It is a monument to a system that values short-term profit over intergenerational survival. The workers who signed that car were witnessing their own erasure. They were participating in a ritual of their own obsolescence. The glass walls of the factory in Dresden still stand, and through them we can see the future clearly. The question is, do we have the courage to change course? Or will we simply watch as the last vehicle rolls off the line and the lights go out?